Four parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really wanna talk about this. Four parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here. Four parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really wanna talk about this. Four parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here.
Babe, hand me a beer. Hello!
Hey!
Welcome!
What's up?
I'm married to them and them is married to me.
Yes.
Oh, we forgot to do that last time.
Nailed
Welcome
it.
to episode 20.
That's right.
That's okay. We have an intro
Yeah.
now
Oh,
that
that's
says
right.
that
Did you
we
see that
used to
before
be
I just
married.
said that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
that old picture of Jake and I.
I
Those two
love it.
I can now say I am clear on who is married to who. The first 18 episodes, I was lost.
Yeah.
Same.
Well, I'm glad we've cleared it up for everybody.
Yay!
What do we do?
I don't even know.
Two truths and a lie.
Oh!
Yeah. Jake, what do you got for us?
Okay. It was a dark and stormy
Liar!
night.
Oh, sorry.
You can't handle the
Preemptive.
truth.
That was preemptive.
Alright, so at the age of 12, I was on a snowboarding trip in the Alps, and I went up a ski lift, and I went down the wrong side of the mountain. I ended up in the wrong country, and my ski pass wasn't good to get back up to the top of the mountain to go back to the other side. So I had to drive a train. I didn't personally drive the train. I rode the train
Could you imagine?
Did you run a tree?
from one country all the way around the mountain to the other. My parents thought I was dead. I didn't get back until like 9 p.m. On
Sounds
a
like
different
a lot of detail for a lie.
on a
Yeah.
different snowboarding trip. It was a very, very foggy day, also in the Alps. And I was just doing my thing. Like I said, it was foggy. Out of nowhere, I am falling. Like, I literally went off a cliff, and it was so foggy that I did not know if I was going to live or die. Like, I couldn't
Whoa.
see underneath me, but I felt like I was falling forever.
Jesus.
And I landed in a cloud of snow, like directly on my back, and was able to dig myself out. And I
Wow.
lived to tell the tale.
Dang.
Man.
And then the third one, the third lie.
I was also snowboarding.
In the Alps. What kind of childhood did you
Yeah.
have?
At band camp. The third one was, what was I going to say? What was I going to say? It was so funny. What was it? I have 2 siblings, so all 3 of us kids were all salutatorian, different years at the same high school.
Wow.
That's all I got.
I think the second one's a lie.
That's my guess, too. Is the second snowboarding story in the fluffy cloud of white.
Yeah.
But it did make me nervous when you were telling it. I was
I
like, is he gonna live? Even though you're right here telling it.
I think it made everybody nervous every time I told that
Wow.
lie.
Nailed it!
That was
High
the
five,
lie.
everybody!
Good
Do you know what I
Got
was? Do you
it.
know what I was hoping? I was hoping your first story would just get more fantastical as it went. It was like
And then 3
turned
L's.
into driving a train, and you're like, and it turned out to be the Polar Express.
Hot chocolate.
Halfway to the North Pole, and Mrs. Claus's stories of the road.
When she started taking off her clothes.
That's when I knew it was a
Mrs.
true
Claus!
story.
This is Claus.
Have you no decency?
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew.
I've been to the North Pole.
Alaska?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, what are we talking about today, Jake?
We are talking about if any of your children announce that they are anything other than straight,
Impossible.
to have a discussion about how to handle it, what you do.
Yeah. Well, that's a big one.
It is a big one.
We could start with how I handled
Heavy.
it.
Yeah. Let's start with how you handle
Golden Corral.
Going and
exactly
going
what So when
for
Thomas was
celebration.
about 10, he we lived in a little apartment at the time, and he came walking out of one of the rooms. He's like, "I'm gay." You got a problem with that? 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 Like, totally put me on the spot. I was like, no! Congratulations. I'm so proud of you for being honest and being able to share how you feel. And let's go celebrate. Let's go to Golden Corral. And they're all like, yeah, Golden Corral! Thomas is gay!
Hand in hand.
Didn't Chandler dare him to do that?
Yeah,
That was
but
the
we
thing.
didn't find that out
but these
until
little fuckers
years
didn't
later.
tell me that it was a dare. And that
Yeah.
it wasn't even true until, what, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, we were
Oh,
doing
man.
something completely different with our day. We were like on the road to somewhere else, and I get this text from Jake that's like, Thomas says he's gay, we're headed to Golden Corral. You want to meet us there? And I'm like, well, we can't not be there. This is a momentous occasion.
Oh, Lord.
But we're also counting our calories, so...
So, yeah, that was all a dare, pretty much, I think, to get a meal out. I don't know.
I think that may have been the
Thomas
case.
kept that secret for years, and that is
Successful.
so funny.
Even as he dated women.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I guess he's bi.
Pretty
No
great.
judgment here.
No.
Well, I have a little experience with being gay, so I don't know if that's helpful.
What?
When's the
But
divorce?
Please edit that out. Can't believe she's
this is embarrassing. I'm changing my shirt.
with her. She's got her earrings and like the shirt on.
Out and proud. No, I would say that my experience growing up very much influenced the way that I wanted to handle any situation regarding my children's gender or sexuality differently. And I'm really grateful for my experiences that helped inform the way that we do things now. I think, in my opinion, I want to create, it's my goal to create a home where children never ever have to come out of the closet. I think that if all is safe and all is okay and all is well with any kind of love partnership that is consensual, there shouldn't be any level of shock factor or even announcement, in my opinion. I think that's the goal, is to have children be like, I'm going on a date with so-and-so, and for us not to even need to ask, oh, is that a boy, a girl, or a non-binary person, or like, it doesn't matter. It
furry.
simply is, yeah, who cares? It's like, this is the person that my child's interested in. Is it consensual? Is it healthy? This is what we care about, you know? And because for me, I couldn't even admit to myself, I couldn't even say the words out loud that I had a same-sex attraction until after I left my first marriage to Jake, and after I was already with AJ. And I remember calling my best friend who is gay, and he was the first person I ever told. I said, I think I'm bisexual. And I was crying and I was hysterical, and it took me so long to even get the words to come out of my mouth. I'm like, I can't say it. I'm like, I think I'm bisexual. And he's like, so what? And that really was exactly what I needed as a response of like, because it truly is like, so what? Who cares? Like, it's not that big of a deal. And I needed him to just kind of bring me down to earth and ground me in that moment. But it's really important to me that my kids know that it's a non-issue. There doesn't need to be a coming out.
We for years talked about this, like when we were first together, like not like a subject we would think about and talk about, but it would come up like it's just our goal, you know, like it's our desire, not even a goal really, just like our desire to like create a home in a way that like that's just how it is, and kids know they're accepted no matter what, that's not a prerequisite for being loved in any kind of way, you know, it doesn't matter. But what's so interesting to me is like that felt so groundbreaking and big. It felt like, oh, we're gonna be so much different than like the generation before us, and even so much of our own generation. And I literally look at the generation under us now, and I'm like, they're already doing it. Like, they don't care, you know? They don't care what religion you are. They don't care what your sexual orientation is, what you do for work. They naturally care about different things that I would think are more important, you know? And I find it so interesting that that's the case, and wonder why that is. But, I mean, every change, there's always evolution and, you know, different things and different generations doing different things, being different ways, whatever, but it just feels like such a big thing that's been around forever. You know, the idea of homosexuality or any kind of sexuality that's not heterosexual at all, or semi or whatever, has been such a weighty, heavy subject. And this generation is just like, yeah, it doesn't matter, you know, and I love that about it.
Yeah.
I agree. And I feel like that no judgment free zone as a family is like you are to love unconditionally, regardless of sexuality, like even like interracial dating and marriages, just not having that judgment for your children and love them and trust them. And we keep using the C word, communicate and being open. It just leaves so much more freedom for the kids not to be feared. Like, I'm scared to tell my parents this, or I'm worried what they're going to think. Like, if you're communicating and you're talking about it, then there's no fear.
Yeah, that's true.
It's crazy how radical it really is to, or for our generation, to be parents who allow just ultimate safety for our kids to identify how they truly feel. They identify. I remember our kids being small and having a Sunday lesson where we had Christmas cards. We had one Christmas card from a lesbian couple with their children, and we had a Christmas card from my best friend and his partner and their family. And so we did like a visual thing about families, and non-traditional families is what I remember calling the lesson. Is just like a lesson about non-traditional families. It's like, what is traditional? What is normal? Like, fuck all of it. Let's just be. But back then, it was a big deal to be teaching small children, you know, about gay families. That was radical. In my neighborhood in Utah, that was, you know, evil probably to a lot of people to teach our children, like, this is just as okay. And then some of the pictures were like a grandma and their grandchildren, or a grandpa, you know, just single parent families. I just am very grateful, like AJ said, that this new generation is highly evolved and they don't think about things in such a black and white, divisive way. So I'm very grateful for that.
Me
They
too.
teach us.
Absolutely.
Shall we spin the wheel for a joke?
Sure, spin
Let's
the wheel.
Is it spinning? I can't tell.
Yep, it is.
This is amazing.
Should I just put my finger on the
I
back?
think we need a new wheel.
Wait, I think it was AJ.
Feels like
Is it
cheating.
AJ?
All right, AJ, give
All
us
right,
a
AJ.
joke.
Alpha Juliet.
Slay J.
Okay, my joke's not all dad. It's a stepdad joke.
Oh,
There
okay.
we go.
Nice.
It's slightly
Dad
a
AJ
dad
joke. AJ dad joke.
Yeah.
So there's this guy, and he's watching TV, and doorbell rings. He's like in a show that he really loves, and he just can't wait to finish it. He's so annoyed. This is before the days of being able to pause it. He runs over to the door, opens it, there's nobody there. And he's like, ah! So he runs back, missed an important part of the show, and he's like, God damn it. Okay. And then he's watching again. Take it back, I already fucked it up. There was a knock. There wasn't a doorbell ring. It was a knock at the door. Nobody's there. Okay, so he goes back watching his show, and then here's another knock at the door. He's like, oh my god. Runs over there. There's nobody there. He goes back over. He's watching TV. Knock at the door again. He's just furious at this point. And he goes over and opens the door. Nobody's there. Right before he slams it, he looks down, and there's this snail just like on the doorstep. And he's like, what the fuck? So he picks up this snail and he's just so mad, he just throws it as far as he can. And he's like, whatever. Goes back and finishes his show. No more knocks at the door. Forgets all about it. A year later, he's watching another show. And right in the middle of it, good part, here's a knock at the door. Runs over. Nobody there. Goes to close the door. Before he can close it, he notices there's a snail sitting on the doorstep. And he looks down at it, and the snail looks up at him and goes, "Jerk!" That's my joke.
I have so many questions.
That joke is on Training Day with Denzel Washington.
Is it? Is that where I got it?
Well, except like the snail a year later finally makes it back up to the porch and he's like, "Fuck's your problem?"
That's so great. That's probably where I got it and just changed it to jerk.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
Good times.
You G-ratified it. That's
That's
great.
hilarious.
I remember.
Good one.
I just remember hearing that the first time, apparently from Training Day, and being like, "That's a good joke."
That's hilarious.
Shell busted all the shit. It's a good story in Training Day.
It is a good show.
Have you ever seen
You
Training
have.
Day?
We
I
watched
can
it
never
together.
remember.
It's on our wall.
Uh-huh.
The one he finally got the Oscar for.
Actually, when we were LDS, I had your whole family watch it at Dan and Andrea's condo in American Fork. We all watched it, and it was the Clean Flicks version,
Clean
Angel
Flicks.
Vids.
which like 20% of the audio was bleeped out. It was
Yep.
crazy.
For real, I bet.
Wow.
And half the scenes.
We used to watch a lot of those Clean Flicks for a while. In Provo, they had Cougar films where they were
Yeah.
renting out edited movies, but then they
So they
got
got
Cougar
sued.
films. That sounds a little different.
right? Sounds right up my alley.
I've
You know what
seen
I'm
a
saying?
few of those.
Do they have a .com?
Oh my God. Well, so back to Pride. That's one thing that we do love to do is go to the Pride Parade every year. That has been a tradition. We took Anthony to his first Pride Parade when he was like 4 or 5 weeks old.
Oh
remember?
yeah, that's right.
That was really fun. And
was
that was
fun.
my first Pride Parade, and I remember
Mine too.
crying, just feeling the love and feeling acceptance and freedom and color and joy and just feeling like this is okay. It's such a hard thing when you are not straight and you're programmed and taught that that's not okay. You have your own homophobia inside. It's a self-loathing that is deeply programmed, that's very difficult to overcome. And even if you are not brought up in a religious home, the world we grew up in is so brutal. There's, gay jokes and the F word used all the time to refer to gay people, and it was such a brutal world for gay people to be brought up in that you truly have a sense of homophobia inside, or at least a lot of people do. And so to be sensitive to that with your own kids and to teach them to love themselves no matter what, and to just literally teach your child to love themselves is the most important thing you can do, whether they're gay, straight, or anything in between. I just noticed that you're using Jake's cup.
I've known the whole time. I've been trying to see what it feels like to be Jake.
That's great.
Pretty good.
Is it going all right?
Yeah, I've never been better.
Makes you tell good jokes.
I love what you're saying, and it reminds me of how often, and I'm sure everyone's heard this a million times, but how often we would run into people being upset about us taking our kids to Pride or a Pride parade, or even say the classic, like, we should have a straight parade and things like that, or whatever, or, I remember someone the first time asking, why aren't there straight parades? And it's because it's not about being gay. It's not about being straight. It's about being accepted. And if there was a need for people who are heterosexual in this world to be accepted for being heterosexual, there would be straight pride parades. But there is not a need for that. It's widely and generally accepted by anyone and everyone. And that's something that I think is an important clarification and distinction to people. This isn't about like people out there like trying to shove sexuality in your face. They're literally celebrating being accepted and loved, and that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Agree.
I think, for those of us who did grow up LDS and were taught the way that we were taught from since before we can remember about heterosexuality, a man and a woman being meant to be together, and that's the only way to do it. And I think that pretty much all old school Christian religions, denominations taught that back in the day. I think, I think a lot of religions are becoming more and more accepting of all different types of sexuality. But growing up in the 80s, growing up in the 70s, growing up in the 60s, growing up in the 50s, and back from there, like, there was only, like, if you were religious, if you were a Christian, there was only one way to do it. And you were taught that before you can remember. And, and it was a big deal. Like, they used terms like anything other than a man and a woman is an abomination before God. I'm just like, I don't even know what the fuck abomination means, but it sounds scary as fuck.
It doesn't sound good.
Like, it's got the word bomb in it. I mean, I'm
A literal
screwed.
bomb. Yeah.
So I think when we are, looking at our extended families or, our siblings that are still in these religions or whoever, like the fact that, like, if they're having a hard time with it, I feel like we need to do our part and be patient with them and understanding and see where they're coming from. Like, they've seriously believed that this was a true sin, is a true sin since before they can remember. Since,
Yeah.
like, I hate to use the word brainwashed, but, they believe it's true, so we're not going to use the word brainwashed, but they were taught that it was a sin since before they can, since they were 3 years old. So, like, I think it's important for us to show unconditional love. Like, we can help teach them and, help do this and help do that. But, we've got to understand where they were coming from. Same place where we came from. And you talk about how hard it was for you to finally get to the point where you could even admit it, you know. It's going to be just as hard for them, if not harder, to be able to admit that maybe they were taught wrong since birth. It's just a tough thing. It's a tough thing for everybody involved.
I agree, and I think that whether it's this subject or any other subject, it's why it's so important to recognize and understand that no matter what side you're on of anything, having an open mind is really important. I might feel like, from my perspective, I'm very positive it's okay to be gay in this world and that it's not going to inhibit any of your journey throughout this cosmic life, whatever that is. But that doesn't mean I'm right. It just means that that's how I feel. And it's the same thing on anybody who might have a differing opinion of it. It's why respect in differing opinions is so important, and understanding, keeping an open mind, understanding your experience doesn't mean you have all the answers. We often talk about how, like, religion is very geographical because everything's geographical. The sports team you love, geography wise, is going to prove that, like, you were born here, this is the percentage chance you're going to be a fan of this sports team. So it wouldn't stop at important subjects, whether that's sexuality, religion, whatever, finances, your whatever, religious beliefs, all those things. It's all those things come to you through, then become filters in your life through the way you're raised, who you're raised by, where you're raised, the religion you were raised in that area, that the religion in that area versus the same religion in a different area. And we get so hung up on knowing because of our experience. And if we can just step back and allow everybody to have their own perspective, then it doesn't have to hurt you. It doesn't have to be difficult, whether that's me feeling a certain way about someone who thinks the way I'm living is terrible, or that person thinking that I'm living in a terrible way that's going to damage myself and my children. Like, both of those people in that scenario, in my opinion, to find happiness and enlightenment through this life, need to stop trying to control it and just allow for everybody to feel and be, and worry about yourself.
I like that.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of, I mean, each of these religions deep down, one of the most important things that they teach is Christ-like behavior. He who is without sin, let him first cast the stone at this prostitute. At this woman that was taken into adultery or whatever the scripture says.
Yeah.
But, like he would wash the feet of sinners. He wasn't trying to judge them. He wasn't trying to say, hey, fuck you, you should be straight. He was there with them, loving them.
Agreed. I think the more awareness we have about how programmable and brainwashable children are, the more we want to protect them from overly programming. We want to teach them how to be themselves and to emerge with their own interests and passions and preferences and things, instead of trying to control the way they're brought up. And even, it brings to mind Anthony's little friend being over at our house, and Anthony saying, I want the pink one, and him saying, that's a girl color. Those kinds of things where it's like, no, girls wear pink and boys wear blue. The boys play sports and girls do dance and cheerlead. These things
Pink
are
laces.
yay.
Yeah.
And so to just try to remove a lot of that and to just allow for openness and freedom, and to allow the children to emerge and to like all the colors that they naturally like, and to explore without programming. I just think that none of us really had an awareness of the programming because we were programmed, and
Right.
so we're now trying to undo that. And hopefully that will help our children to create that much more of a safe space for their children,
Uh-huh.
I love that.
Ripple effect.
It's interesting too with the programming is like you think about being programmed as a human being through your experience, and on the surface level right in front of you, when you recognize like, oh, I was programmed to think these things, it's easy to be like, I can separate myself from that programming because I recognize that these aren't my thoughts and feelings about this subject. This is actually how I feel. But what's so much harder to get away from with the programming is just the general idea that you know things, that you understand how things work, that you're if you're told your whole life, like, you know the truth, here's the truth, let everybody else know what the truth is, then it bleeds into other aspects too, and you become the expert and you become the person who's always right about everything. That's something personally that I have had to figure out through the journey of understanding that I was programmed through my upbringing. Is even though it was easy for me to recognize, okay, yeah, I don't agree with this, and this actually isn't who I am or how I feel, it made it so that when I did find things I thought were true, it's easy to be like, yeah, it's true, and so it's like a next step of removing the programming is we were very conscious about with having conversations about the kids or Sunday lessons like we used to do, about being vocal about these are just our thoughts and beliefs. We don't know at the end of the day anything. We're just, this is what we feel, and it's important that you figure out what you feel.
Yeah.
Agreed, 100%. But how was the snail knocking?
Yeah.
That
how
was
did
my
the snail
question.
knock?
Here's
It's-
what's more important.
Well,
We
it's
definitely couldn't ring the
shell?
doorbell, so I had to switch that
You had to switch it.
quick.
Well, I feel
You
like
really
could
needed
do-
to switch it. That part was important.
Yes, I was like,
I can almost see a snail pushing
Maybe
a
like
doorbell easier than
What if he
knock,
knocking?
knock.
what if he just had a little pebble?
He's smacking his shell against the...
His
There you go.
shell, yeah.
I like
Maybe
that.
it's the shell.
Yeah,
And what did he want to tell the man?
Yeah.
we'll never know.
I
It was so
know.
But
urgent.
he's probably
So
trying to
many
help. He's like,
questions.
lights are on in your car, but it just
The lights are on.
couldn't get to him.
Oh my god.
I think
Wow.
just wanted to ask when he's watching. That's so good.
Oh man. Yeah, maybe
I
he just
sense
wanted
your
to watch the show.
intrigue. What are you watching?
Yes. Yeah. He's like the bunny from the last episode that came back and found
Yeah.
his way back to your house.
Great memory.
Great.
Last week.
It's wild. Yes, I love
Oh, all
it.
right.
That was like
well,
8 days ago. That was a whole Hanukkah ago. That was a really good
Oh,
memory.
Hanukkah. That's
Oh,
great.
yarmulke. It's time for Hanukkah.
Anything else about if your kid? I think for me, I just want to encourage all parents of any age to have open conversations with your children about self-love, self-acceptance, your love being unconditional. Have conversations about the lack of need for coming out in your home. Say, some kids feel like they have to come out of the closet, and explain to your child what coming out of the closet is, and say, that means that a part of you is hiding and it has to come out. And I don't want you to ever have to hide any part of yourself. I want you to always be comfortable and safe. And if there's anything I can do to help you feel more safe, things like that. I just think that because of the extreme levels of depression and suicidal ideation and major, major life problems that came into my life because of not being okay with who I am, I have a deep desire for parents to create safety for their children, to simply just be, so that so much of their time and energy in their life doesn't get taken up by just trying to be okay in their own body. It's very exhausting. So I would encourage all parents to use love and intention to create more safety, more acceptance, more open love and open communication for your kids.
Beautiful.
Beautifully said.
Yes.
Agreed. That's the one.
Let's go
Question
to our
time.
listener question.
Yes.
For parents now.
Oh my God! Look how many listeners we have with questions.
Oh my God, they're coming in. We need a bigger
Long
jar.
time listener, first time question asker.
I really hope it's a joke instead.
Yeah, it might be.
What do you call these nuts?
I don't care. This is a joke.
It's a joke.
It's okay, look, I'm gonna still read it. Kids are like tiny drunk adults. They fall over, yell random things, and demand food at the worst times. Except you can't just put them in an Uber home.
So
You can
lame.
now with Uber
That's
Teens.
a Chat GPT parenting joke.
Yay!
That was a good joke. Now pull a question. I'm ready for more.
Yeah,
Good
let's hear a
job,
question.
GPT.
Yeah, I need to come up with some different jokes. That's my bad.
No, that was good.
It was
Put them
good.
in the Uber home. There were no snails involved.
Especially not knocking
Ooh.
snails.
What's one thing you wish people would stop pretending they have figured out in parenting?
Oh, I like that.
Parenting.
Right? I think being a parent in public and your kid having a tantrum and you are trying so hard not to have a meltdown yourself, and the judgment just by the looks of people, like, if I had a kid I wouldn't do that.
Right.
And like, I was a single mom of 2 for a long time, and just people looking at me and judging, like, if I had a kid I wouldn't do that. And that phrase just is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Like, one, you don't have a kid, so don't tell me how to parent. But I think that would be my biggest one.
Yeah, that's a major one.
That is a good one. I like something that people. It's something that people think they've figured out. Yeah, the one that I feel like I see a lot, and we've all been victim of it, I'm sure. But I think we all have awareness in here of something like this. It's that kids, the parents who think like they've like pulled one over on their kids, and their kids don't know who they really are or how they really behave, or like they think they have their kids fooled in some way. And kids know everything. Kids know what you're doing in your life. They know how you act at home versus out in public. They know how you act when one parent's there and the other parent, if the other parent isn't there and then the parent's there again, they think that they've like beaten the system, but like the kids know exactly who you are and what you're doing in your life.
Super intuitive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think in general, my pet peeve with parenting and thinking they all have it figured out is like way too much of a focus on appearances. Like, when all your kids are in perfect matching outfits and perfect hair and whatever, and it's like the focus is on the appearance, and you see the kids just like kind of afraid to even make a move because they just want to appear. I don't know if that really is an example, but
Yeah.
I remember one of my youngest son's teachers who we had a few. I shouldn't cut the name out. What? But
She's a
anyway,
gem.
she called my son out, my youngest out for having too short of pants, and he literally had at least 2 pairs of his size pants in his drawer with the tags on, a little sticker on the pants. But he liked his shorter pants, and he liked to wear different colored socks, and he liked to wear his shirt inside out and backwards, and I allowed it. I was like, you look great. If that, I would tell him, hey, your shirt's inside out. I like it like that. Okay, perfect. You look awesome, And I definitely let her have it. I was not, sugarcoating when I let her know to leave my child alone and let him be, because just let them express themselves however they want. All right, everybody.
And that brings us to a close.
Rainbows.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much. We all love you, and I hope you love yourself. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
4 parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really wanna talk about this. 4 parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here. 4 parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really wanna talk about this. 4 parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here.